Hello, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, welcome. My name is Achila Yona. I'm a researcher, author, genealogist. I have a book called Discovering American Genealogy on Amazon, so definitely check that out, link in the description. And also, I do want to let y'all guys know that I will be taking on more clients that need help with kickstarting their genealogy journey. So be on the lookout for that, you guys, because I have not been able to expand my clientele because, of course, I work a full-time job and I also do YouTube. So my time is split up in different areas. But my team is expanding and pretty soon I'm going to be able to take on more clients. So I'm very happy and excited about that. Nonetheless, let's hop right into this topic because I'm going to be showing y'all 3 videos. The first video is consciously talking smack about Aboriginals. The second video is of an Aboriginal man reacting to consciously video. And then the third video is consciously reacting to his video. So yeah, there are more videos of people reacting to consciously video, but I'm not going to put all of them in there because I'm not trying to make this video longer than what it already is. So yeah. However, I do want to point out the hate that a lot of Aboriginal people get. I see it in my comment section all the time, no matter if it's those $5 Indians, those mixed white natives, those white natives, those 10 Africanists. It does not matter. People really hate seeing our existence. People really hate that we are speaking up for ourselves and taking back our identity. And people can't stand it. However, I love to see it. I love to see my people winning. I love to see my people reclaiming their ancestry. I love to see my people researching their ancestry, doing their genealogy, and putting in that work, baby. Just know your hard work is not going unseen. I'm going to tell you that right now. Your hard work is being seen. Your ancestors are watching y'all reclaiming who you are. And they love you, okay? They love you. I don't care what nobody has to say, because at the end of the day, people know our power, but they don't want us to know. People don't want us to know our power. They don't want us to know that there is power that comes with doing your genealogy. Because when you do your genealogy, you know who you are, you know who your ancestors are, and you know who they weren't. And you also know what lineage they come from. So when people act like there's just no possible way for so-called Black people to know their true identity, they're gaslighting you, they're lying to you, and most likely they don't know their own ancestry. Because just stating that you come from a country doesn't mean anything. You could come from that country, but it doesn't mean that your ancestors are originally from that country too. One thing I want to point out before I show y'all these videos is that people cannot see darker skinned people with textured hair, kinky textured hair, outside of the term Black. And it's because they have been indoctrinated that way. They'd be like, oh, you have to be Black because you're dark skinned, you're brown skinned. Look at your hair, look at your features. But they forget that before we were called Black, before we were called color, before we were called Negro, before we were called Indian, we identified after the nations we come from. We come from nations, not colors. And people forget that. I did not come from a crayon. I came from a nation that had their own rights, their own customs, their own spiritual systems. They had their own way of life. And a lot of people forget that when it comes to people of darker hue. That's why on my channel, I don't sit here and promote the mixed white, light, and brights, because that's not the original standard of the original people of America. And I do not care that since y'all think because I have white ancestry from 3 generations ago that I can't speak about colorism. I will continue to speak about colorism, and I will not allow people to whitewash the identity of the original people I come from. Thank you. You can go on somewhere. But anyway, let me go ahead and show y'all these videos because they are kind of long. So bear with me on this, and I will come back with further commentary.
We are the real American Indians consciously. It's well documented consciously from the European settlers that Negroes were here in the country. Y'all ready to watch this horrible argument?
It says that Black Americans are the original Native Americans. Tell me.
Challenge yourself that Langsdorff, narrative of the Rezanoff voyage to New California in 1806. These idiots are of a middling or rather short stature, and their color is of such a dark brown that it approaches black. This color is owing very much to their filthy mode of living, to the power of their sun rays, to the custom of smearing their bodies with mud and amber dust, their slovenly way of wearing their scanty cover. Now let's get to the main root of this. Then you're going to answer this question. Their lips are large, thick, and protruding. Their noses broad, flat, and Negro-like. Their features in many respects resemble those of the Negro. So tell me, sir, who is the Negro-like Indian that is found here in America? I'll wait.
Then you got people in the comments. Come on, bruh. Because I have pictures of my people be dark and known as Indians, also light-skinned. Crazy how some of our culture stands with $5 Native Americans over the accurate origins. I like some of his content, real interesting, but he seems very much in the dark about certain things. Thank you for sharing. And this is the one that really made me laugh right here. This dude with the European education trying to make folks think that we were African slaves. Research over me search. This man is using Langsdorff's journal from 1806. Do y'all know that people of African descent was already in this country for like over 100 years then? You know, there's a book called They Came Before Columbus by Ira Van Sertima, where he uses Almac statues trying to make some of these same arguments. You know, that book was debunked by a lot of different historians. Let's really get into this. 1806. You see what I'm saying? Who's Langsdorff? Who's Langsdorff? Because Conscious Lee's been educated by the white man, the European education. He's only going to use the European sources. Who is Langsdorff? George von Landorf, a German naturalist and explorer, as well as a Russian diplomat that was definitely educated by Europeans. He's European himself. So y'all believe that George Langsdorff had the cultural competency in 1803 to understand the distinctions between a Negro and an indigenous person? Do you think that he knew that? Answer this question for me, even though I don't know what the equator and how geography works. Tell me the indigenous people that had Negro-like features. That's the easiest question to answer. It's like, it's well documented. Pictures, statues, paintings like these right here is what a lot of the Insta Indians or the Pretendians try to be. And just to be clear, there are Black Indians. You feel me? There are Afro-Indigenous people that exist. But trying to say that all Black people in America and slavery didn't exist and we are the true Aboriginals of America, that's a settler colonial idea. You feel me? That is a textbook indigenous erasure. But let's get back to these old statues with these features like ours, because you know when you live by the equator, it's hot. You see what I'm saying? So you're going to have a particular type of nose and lips and skin color because you got to be able to breathe by the equator, you know? I did my DNA test. Shout out to Nigeria and Sierra Leone. You know what I'm saying? We here together. 2018, the DNA test was performed on ancient Almac remains, and it turned out the Almacs were not related to any African population, but shared genetic markers with the indigenous populations of Mexico and Central America. Proponents of the myth that y'all seen in that video based the conclusions on superficial interpretations of famous Almac heads and Veracruz, that statues they claim and bear, I can't even say that word right there, the resemblance to Africans solely based on their broad noses and thick lips. And the colonizers said it, so it must be true. Here's a Mayan woman right here, you feel me? Big nose, big lips, obviously not Black though. Here goes an Aztec man. Big lips, big nose, obviously not black though. You see where we going with this? Prove it. Man, y'all better stop playing with me. Research over me search. Do better next time. We are the real American Indians consciously. It's well documented consciously.
People who actually do their genealogy, they're not relying on European settlers for verification on if they're indigenous or not. This is the process, right? This is the process that people do when it comes to their genealogy. They're doing genealogy, which is studying census records, death records, marriage records, birth records, going to libraries, courts, and finding records on their family, starting with themselves first, then their parents, then their grandparents, then their great-grandparents, and then their second grandparents, and so on and so on and so on and so on. Right? Now, with that being said, there's different ways that people can find out if an ancestor is indigenous, right? But I'm going to save that for later. Also, no one is using Olmec heads to determine if they're indigenous or not either, if they're actually doing their genealogy, right? Nobody's making these broad statements on who's indigenous or not when they're actually doing their genealogy, right? Is a video you have yourself talking about census records and having accurate census records according to W.E.B. Du Bois. So census records are used to trace your ancestry, right? And before someone comes and says, "Ooh, white man's paper," your ancestors were filling out these records themselves. If not, they got the information from a neighbor. The same way someone comes and knocks on your door for the census in modern times, they were doing that shit back in the day. Started in 1790 and going on to today, right? Now, there were cases where people didn't have the option to self-identify, and you'll see instances of people trying to put Indian, or they put a B or something that looks like a 13 and calls it black. People trying to put I for Indian, they're like, nah. And then later on, people were able to self-identify, right? Now, with that being said, there are plenty of documents of Spanish explorers or different explorers documenting what indigenous people look like, right? My family, for instance, you have people that are of the Powhatan and the Piscataway Confederation. The Powhatan Confederation, they documented that Chief Powhatan was as black as the devil. And he had, 2,200 other men with him? The Piscataway, very dark, tall, muscular, indigenous people, right? This is well documented. And we can go on about the misclassification, reclassification of indigenous people going from indigenous, Indian, to black, colored, Negro, mulatto, and even white in cases. But I have talked about that enough, right? I've talked about this stuff enough. So that being said, can people stop being disingenuous, right? Can people stop being so disingenuous and actually hear what people are talking about, right? And then this is not my first time seeing this video either. I saw this shit on Twitter, and I said something, and then I took it upon myself like, hey, let's sit down and have a conversation about this, right? And I'm still willing to have a conversation about this. We could be respectful. Ain't gotta be no shouting match. It could be on Twitter. It could be on TikTok. It don't matter, right? We can have this conversation and actually bring an understanding to why people are saying they're indigenous and they look like me.
Stop playing with us. The real Indians have awoken.
So what I'm saying is, if you think you're just a slave, you can look at this and say, oh, it's a Mexican guy. Like, do you see that? Do you see how crazy that is? And look, God says, humble yourself. No, I'm not going to humble myself.
Nobody thinks they're just a slave. Being able to acknowledge your heritage coming from enslaved African peoples is not the same as boiling down to humanity to just being a mere slave. That is the internalization of the colonizer. You see what I'm saying? Since you want to be pretending in things, but since you want to bring up the Olmec, let's get into it. Hijacking history, the problem with the black Olmec myth. And what I find funny about this dude is that this article came out in 2020, and literally last year he was debating conservative speaking points talking about racial victimization, and now he claiming a racial victimization and that somebody stole his identity and that he really Native American. This man got folks see here in West African features talking about he a Olmec. Boy, if you don't get your... The idea of black Olmecs is rooted in the pseudo-historical revisionism that is not accepted by legitimate Mesoamerican scholars. It should be made clear that there is no archaeological, faunal, floral, genetic, or historical evidence exists to support the myth of black Olmecs. In fact, scholars such as Gabriel Haslaf-Vieira, Warren Barbara, and Bernard Ortiz de Montellano, I said that wrong, of course, I'm not going to get into my Spanish, have published extensive research refuting bioinsertment in the myth of the black Olmecs. Imagine saying you're not African, but you take a pseudo-scientific Afrocentric idea about the Olmecs really being black, and then you push it on the internet. What did you internalize about Africa and Africans that make you where you want to distance yourself so much from them? Indigenous Americans, indigenous people of the Americas, on behalf of the black pretendians, you see what I'm saying? And shout out to the real Afro-Indigenous folks too. I want to apologize, you feel me? They've internalized the colonial idea of the indigenous erasure, and they believe that they can just say they y'all. You see what I'm saying? And you know, they've been taught well, you feel me? Enslavement and colonialism got them all, you feel me, screwed up. And man, education is elevation. Listen, man, I know y'all don't understand this part, but human migration was going on before the Europeans learned that the world was round. You see what I'm saying? There were civilizations that were circumnavigating this world when individuals believed they can sell off the planet Earth. So it is very rational to understand that there was African presence in the Americas before the Europeans without trying to erase the presence of indigenous Americans. You see that? You see how you can walk and chew gum at the same time? Education is elevation for real, man.
And yet you can use your crusty fingers to type all this and still talk about indigenous erasure, like Aboriginal erasure is still not going on to this day. But anyway, y'all have seen those videos, and it is imperative that consciously have not learned anything. He has not learned anything. He can sit here and say that he understands genealogy and he understands the multiplicity of black folks, but yet he doesn't. Because it's the simple fact that he still identifies us as black lets me know he do not understand that we came from nations, not colors, not crayons, but nations. And it's so wild to me that after people really pushed his ass in the corner and told him about himself, now he want to backtrack and say, agreed, not all black Americans are of African descent. What's the need for the discussion? First of all, sir, you sit there and put out a whole public service announcement trying to debunk our existence and talk down on us in order to get favor from these mixed white natives. And now when folks correct you about your ignorance, now you're saying there's no need for the discussion. Obviously there is, because you do not understand American history, and it's imperative that you don't. You don't understand American history. And this is literally the mind of an average person who lives in America. They don't know American history and feel the need to tell people who they think they are based on what they look like or what they have been told about said demographic. A lot of people do not know, and I have talked about this on my channel before, but a lot of people do not know that East Indians came to America during colonial times as slaves and were being reclassified as Negro or black and was assimilated into the American Negro society. A lot of people are not aware of that. And also, too, not just them being recategorized as black, but they was also being identified as American Indian, too, because of their identity being associated with Indian. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that paper genocide affected not only American Indians, but people of darker hue in general. If you were not white, they were going to reclassify you as something else. It doesn't matter if you come from America or Africa, India, Asia, whatever. Your ass is going to get reclassified. And a lot of people need to understand American history instead of trying to throw around these assumptions about people, family history, and their genealogy, because you do not know. Consciously does not know. That's why he's trying to stick to studies and to statistics to try to tell people about themselves when really he has no tangible evidence to sit here and claim that everybody comes from Africa and all this other stuff. A lot of people are unaware that these scientists do not know where people come from. They're just speculating. Okay, they're just speculating. They told us how many years that we all come from Africa, just for them to come out now talking about we don't know where modern humans come from. After they sit there and told us that we all come from Africa. It's a load of baloney, and that's why you need to only focus on your genealogy and not what people who do not know you have to say about your ancestry, because these scientists, they're still racially biased. They're racially biased. They're going to say whatever they need to say to get paid. And a lot of people are unaware that when these anthropologists, these scientists, and these archaeologists, when they are presented with remains, sometimes whoever's over the study, they withhold certain information from these people in these professions so they won't force their own racial bias into the studies and mess it all up and make it inaccurate. So really, we're all dealing with flawed individuals. And these people are not going to be honest about the existence of Aboriginal people. Now, they did say that Aboriginal people existed prior to Columbus, but then they also want to say that we were killed off by modern day Native Americans. And consciously, he is smart enough to connect the dots and say, oh, well, I know that Aboriginal Americans went through paper genocide, blah, 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 but it doesn't mean black people are indigenous. He's still in denial, baby. He's still in denial. He know what it is. He know what people are doing when it comes to our identity, but yet he cannot fathom it because he only thinks of Africans as the victims of genocide. He thinks Africans are the only victims of people trying to hide their history. But guess what? Aboriginal Americans, we go through that too. We have people trying to claim our identity too. And the people that you're claiming that are doing indigenous erasure, they're the ones that are reclaiming what is theirs. And the people you're defending the intruders, the invaders. So consciously made his bed and now he lying in it. Because he know he wrong and he know he misspoke. And now that's why he got to come back and backtrack and be like, nah. I don't have an issue. Yeah, you do. Or otherwise we wouldn't have made that video in the first place. But y'all guys, keep it up. Keep schooling people about our ancestry because people need to know the truth. Or otherwise, people like consciously wouldn't have backtracked when we start talking about genealogy and how we can prove our ancestry with genealogy. Folks need to understand that them little studies and them little statistics don't have nothing to do with all of the so-called Black American population. So really, they just grasping for straws. Just because you tested a certain percentage of a demographic does not mean anything. It just means you just tested them for whatever reason. Like, these studies really be half-assed, and people like to use them to try to debunk somebody. Those studies do not prove anything, sweetheart. That's why they don't hold up in court. However, them documents do. But anyway, let me know what y'all guys think in the comment section. Tell me what y'all guys think about Conscious Lee and this whole situation. Comment down below. Thank y'all guys for watching. Don't forget to like this video, share this video, and also don't forget to subscribe. Because y'all know you're going to come back anyway to talk your mess. So you might as well subscribe to get notified when I'm coming on here to talk my ish. All right? Okay, I love y'all guys. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Stay safe. And until the next time, bye.
Perfect.